Good evening and salutations, my Days of the Lives fans. I actually had to sit there and think about that for a minute. So, a couple of things I want to sit there and talk about in this episode. Like, Brady's that they're putting up flyers where he knows full and well that Rachel is with Kristen. And I don't know how many hours, how many minutes he was posting flyers until he saw Marlena and being like, the hell am I doing? And at first he wants to sit there and confront Kristen again. But Marlena was like, you know what? Let me sit there and talk to her. I'm a trained psychologist or whatever, a psychiatrist, and I can sit there and read people. So, I'll do it. Meanwhile, the conversation with Lonnie and Kristen, Lonnie knew that Kristen had Rachel. She didn't push because, they're friends and everything like that, but she knew. And she did sit there and urge her, listen, I'm about to go back to jail. You just got out of jail. You don't want to go back there. All right? So do what you got to do. Make peace with Brady. Just do what you got to do. And so that was nice. That was nice because Kristen didn't lie to her. Well, she didn't lie to her, but she didn't. How do I sit there and put this? She didn't confirm or deny that she had Rachel. And so Marlena did come over there. At first she was like, no, I don't have her, this, that, and the third. But then she was like, all right, well, if I did have her, you know, she pretty much just went to barter, like, well, what could I get for giving her back? And I'm like, what could I get in return? And I'm like, the hell? I mean, don't get me wrong. It's a suck ass situation that she has to sit there and only be able to see Rachel on Brady's terms. Now, I get it. Kristen has done some bad things, okay? But I don't want to sit there and say god awful things because that's more Megan's department. But she's done some bad things, and she kind of just set a very bad example for Rachel. But I don't believe that she should be separated from her child, and I think they should probably renegotiate um this whole custody thing. You know, um, Whitney, fake Paulina. So here's the thing: we find out that Whitney's husband died like a year ago, and it explains why she's so latched on to Abe. Let me tell you something. If you don't sit there and deal with your grief in an effective way, um, it will cause you to sit there and do some crazy, nutty things like what she's doing. Man, way back, I was watching General Hospital, and they had the whole Connor Bishop and Nicholas. And the reason why his wife was so, like, she was clinging on to Nicholas so much is because she missed her husband. Now, granted, they looked alike, so it was like, whatever, but she was so needy and so desperate because she lost her husband and she just didn't deal with her grief in a proper way. She started doing psychotic things like that. Hell, didn't she try to kill? She killed somebody, or she killed Sage. That's what it was. And now you are there seeing Whitney do the same desperate things that I can't remember her name was that Jerry is starting to feel guilty. Part of me still wants me to call him Fake Deal, but I was like, you know what, Fake Deal, Jerry. Let's just stick with Jerry at this point. Jerry came over there, and he didn't even like the fact that, like, the dude looked, like he's drugged up and everything like that, and now Whitney's like, you need to sit there and leave town. I'm leaving town as well, and all this other stuff. Meanwhile, you got Steve and John. John's talking about he keeps having these dreams, the same dream. And the thing is, when you start to have the same dream, it's something you should pay attention to, right? Something you should pay attention to. And so Steve is like, they start really sitting there thinking about this whole thing. They start going back to the drawing board, and they start looking at Whitney. And when Chanel comes over and talks about, oh yeah, Nurse Whitney came over to give her condolences, and talked about how she was a big supporter of Abe's campaign, and also was at the wedding. That's when like, yeah, we need to sit there and really take a look at Whitney again. So Steve goes to the hospital to talk to Whitney, and long story short, Whitney talks about how she's going to be resigning from the hospital. She's just going to take Abe and just disappear from town. What the hell? She's going to take Abe and just disappear from town. So now we're getting to a point where it's going to start to come to a conclusion, right? And the thing that I was really looking forward to, which I got my answer at this point, was what was the reason why Whitney was so hell bent on keeping Abe, keeping Abe. So now we got to that point. Theo was there to give the speech. He practiced speeches for the Paulina. And Lonnie, there was one point after the funeral that they were talking about Jerry. And Lonnie was sitting there thinking back to when Jerry was acting very squirrely and everything. Now Jerry's sitting there ready to pack. He's ready to sit there and blow town. And he gets knocked on the door, and of course is Lonnie. Now, if you saw the previews, tomorrow is actually going to be a good episode. I'm assuming it's Friday, and usually days have actually done pretty well as far as dropping the cliffhangers. So yeah, I'm not gonna lie. There was one point where I felt like it started to drag, and I'm actually pretty happy now because it feels like they're actually coming to a conclusion of this whole thing. So I'm I'm very happy. It feels like they're ending this chapter and they're going to be starting in the next chapter, especially with that terrible, horrible human piece of pig feces known as Clint, the mayor. I feel like that's about it. All in all, I was just going to say this was a decent episode. It wasn't super great, but it wasn't bad either. It was just in the middle. It was interesting and it was intriguing because you feel like it's come to a point where it's coming to an end. So I'm very satisfied on that. Anyway, I feel like I might have missed some couple of things, but that's just my general thoughts of the episode. So with that being said, I'm gonna go. I want to thank you for watching. Stay safe. If I missed anything, you know what to do. Come to the live stream tonight, 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific. We'll sit there and talk about all of them: days, B&B, YNR, and GH. And I'll see you in the next video or live stream. Or both.